So, here we are again for another episode of Saco River Chronicles. Today we have Phil Finemore in the house, and Phil is running for the Hollis Selectboard.
That's right.
Tell us why you want to run for the Hollis Selectboard.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, Patrick. I appreciate the opportunity to come in and chat with you and get to a wider audience here of people that are interested in a lot of what we'll, or hopefully most of what we'll talk about today, if not all of it. I decided to run for a few reasons. The top, though, being I've seen being here for 9 years now. I've lived in small town Maine my whole life, aside from my stint in Bangor for college. And this town right now in the next 3 years has some incredible opportunities, but also some incredible hurdles that it's going to have to navigate the right way. And being much more involved over the past 2 years, and by involved I mean just paying attention, going to meetings, watching meetings, sort of getting the ins and outs of what's going on, and being more intrigued because of our switch to the 5-person select board, town manager style of government. That really was like, okay, that much more important to pay attention. Not that we shouldn't pay attention all the time, but it became that much more important to pay attention in my mind, and in doing so, again, I've see these opportunities on the horizon, these hurdles that if we don't navigate correctly are going to be incredibly costly to the community, and not just financially. I think could really set us back in our ability to move forward in a prosperous way.
Can you be specific about what some of those hurdles might be?
Absolutely. The biggest one being navigating our TIF account. Ending the TIF account that Poland Spring has been has that agreement set up for the past 20. Well, by the time it ends, it'll be about a 20-year period. That's been very vital to allowing us to make some bigger purchases and do some things that normally would fall on the checkbooks of the taxpayers, that we've been able to use those funds for. And that account running out means not only do we not have that, and then that does change our tax base a little bit as far as how much of the tax dollars from Poland Spring that the town gets. It also takes that bigger part of cash flow away from us. Mm-hmm. So, and if we don't use it, and by use it I mean when it can't be earmarked, it has to be gone by 2030. That money goes to all the other municipalities around York County that could utilize that. So if we don't navigate this the right way, we literally could be crumpling up what seems to be somewhere between $5 and $5.5 million, throwing it out the window. And we need to make sure that if we do use it, which I have full faith we will, there's some great people have formed that committee to suggest and investigate how we should use it. We need to make sure we use it on things that are going to really help, not just help the town with immediate needs, but set us up very well for the future. That's one of the incredible opportunities, but it's also a hurdle. Yep. Because if we don't navigate it the right way, that could really trip us up. The other thing I'll throw in there is one of the things I said that really got me that much more interested in what the town was doing, which is this new form of government that we have, the 5-person select board, the town manager. I do think that has been going well. I think things are moving in the right direction. We have more voices involved. We have more checks and balances. We have someone in that town manager position that has a lot of experience, running budgets of this size and running departments of this size, that I think can really bring us to the 21st century and make our government more efficient. And an efficient government is more effective for the people, both financially and from a service perspective. So that collaboration, I think, is crucial to continue to support and navigate moving forward. And again, that is a hurdle, though. Not all the things are in place in order for that form of government to work.
There's some growing pains.
There's some growing pains that we're going through currently that will continue if we don't put the right resources into this form of government. Mm-hmm. So I think those are the two biggest things off the top of my head that we need to navigate, that, I feel like some of my own personal experiences through life, career,
Since you mentioned it, tell us about your life a little bit. Before the camera started rolling, you told me you grew up in Oakland.
Yes.
Do you come from a family that public service oriented family?
Absolutely, yeah. So I personally, like you said, grew up in Oakland, Maine, so I've been a lifelong Mainer. As I mentioned, the only time I've been outside of a town of about 5,000 people was when I was in Bangor for school. I was still in the summers and vacations, still living and working in Oakland, where I grew up. So very familiar with small town Maine and how that can operate and serve the people well, and how important it is to be a part of a community like that. I was in Cub Scouts from the time I was 5 years old all the way up through Eagle Scout. So I served the town in a lot of different capacities that way, where I grew up. And yeah, civic duty was very important. I mean, I went to town meetings growing up, both with my Boy Scout troop and with my grandfather, who was very involved in the community. He was actually the chairman of the school board for most of the time that I was in school. So yeah, I've always kind of had that civic-minded upbringing, and that.
I'm curious also, what brought you to Hollis, you and your family, of all the small towns you could have moved to?
Yeah, it was my wife and I wanting that same small town feel that we grew up with. She's from Green, Maine, so again, very
Lewiston,
right next to Lewiston. Yep, very similar size to Hollis. Similar in a lot of ways. So we wanted that small town feel, but our careers brought us to Southern Maine just for job opportunity. But we knew we didn't necessarily want like the cul-de-sac, postage stamp lot, Portland suburb life for ourselves or for our children. And in doing some research, we found towns that fit the mold of what we wanted, and Hollis was one of them. And I personally loved our rec department that we have. I worked summers both in high school and college for a rec department where I grew up, so I have a soft spot.
Well, I'll tell you, she doesn't get much credit, but I think Deb Teft is one of the unsung heroes of the town of Hollis.
100%, Deb, and then over the past couple of years, Chip has come in and done an incredible job expanding some programs that Deb by herself was having a hard time expanding, which has been a great service to the community. Specifically like the rec program, both the summer rec and the before and after school. When I first had kids going into, coming out of daycare, heading into school, alls I heard was like, if you ever want aftercare, good luck. Like that's not going to happen. And then that department expanded a little bit, and now it's a vital resourse for parents.
For whatever reason, it's always baffled me, but rec departments seem to be a football in some town halls.
Yeah.
As far as moving here and overcoming the skepticism of some people who say, oh, well, you're from away, or, how do you address that?
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand it. I totally get it. That is very much, Maine collectively says that, around this time of year when all the people from away come up and flood their summer homes and back up our traffic and all those good things. Tourist season, right? So I understand that sentiment as a lifelong Mainer. I felt that way before. But I think what's important is that just because I'm coming in with what seems like new ideas, or maybe my ideas aren't even new, I'm just not aware that they've been tried in the past because I didn't hear about them, or when they were tried, I wasn't living in the area yet. I think it's easy sometimes to think of new ideas as a challenge to what is currently going on. But I think my answer to that would be, just because I have new ideas or this new energy that I'm bringing, because maybe you can tell from our conversation here, I can pretty passionate, fairly energetic about things, and when I do something,
you don't need any coffee.
No, I don't. Yeah, and when I do something, I'm all in. So I get where people can maybe take offense that things like change or new ideas mean that what's currently happening is bad, but that's not where this is coming from at all. This is, how can we take what is working, what is going well, and we have to be honest with ourselves. Sometimes the status quo is not always good. Just because we're comfortable with it doesn't mean it's good. But making it better doesn't mean what's going on is bad, I think is the take-home point. And that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm not trying to act like I have all the answers, because I don't. In fact, I know I have a lot to learn. I'm in healthcare. I say this all the time. The most important thing in healthcare is knowing what you don't know, so that you don't put someone's livelihood or life at risk. You got to educate yourself. But I do think that my experiences lend themselves to collaborative decision making, and that's what I hope to bring to the position. And again, I don't want anyone to take it as, hey, things aren't good enough and I need to make them better. Yeah. In my mind, better is just like, let's take what's already working well, identify maybe what's not working as well, which doesn't mean bad, and make it better.
Yeah, I just think that there's a lot of fear, not always well-founded, that people who are coming in want to turn Hollis into the mess that we see in Wyndham or Gorham.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's true at all.
No.
I have been enormously impressed with what I have seen as the evolution of Hollis. I've actually been very surprised in many ways. When I came into this position in 2007, well, let's just say there was room for improvement.
Yeah. Sure.
And, the 5-member select board and the town manager, I think it was long overdue. And
so did most of the town, by the way.
Yeah,
62% of the voters in that election wanted it. So,
So, with that said, the fear of strip malls and all that, we all understand that. I guess I was thinking that because we're here in this studio, which used to be a vegetable stand, and Hollis has this agricultural tradition, that maybe some kind of food-related businesses might be good in the area. What are your thoughts about the kind of businesses you'd like to see come here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, again, time is of the essence with some of these decisions we have to make, but we also have some time, right? And what I really want to do is, I do believe that a certain level of business development is paramount. And I said this in the candidates night. For those of you out there that didn't see the candidates night video, go on the Saco River Community Television
I'll
YouTube.
put the website up.
Please do, and watch that, because there were certain things in there that are really great to hear some perspectives on as well. But one of the things I mentioned there was using our TIF account to help with some infrastructure that would promote business development. And I agree with you. I don't mean strip malls, right? We don't need to have an area of town that's just riddled with business. But we do have areas where we could promote some business development and attract some businesses in. That you're right. I think one of those areas is, let's help our agricultural community. Can we bring in some stores that either offer supplies or something like that? And I know we have some of those around, but I think there's enough agriculture in a lot of these surrounding towns that a store like that in Buxton and a store like that in Hollis could both thrive.
Sure.
Because there are a lot of people, even outside of the bigger farm operations, that do their own
yeah, well,
farming.
I guess I had mine, and it was only a limited run, but in Standish, in an old Grange Hall, at one time they had a winter market where local artisans and food growers would bring their wares. And I'd like to see something like that happen in Hollis. I see near here someone that makes maple syrup. There is some cattle in town. I've bought eggs off the side of the road in Hollis. So I don't know. It's not clear in my mind where I'm going with that, but I just think that it's one way to honor the tradition of the town.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we got a lot of people in this town that do more, whether they run their own business or work for a good local business, that are in the blue collar industry. Yeah, are there companies out there that would like to have kind of a headquarters for the construction or trades industry that would make it easier and maybe more affordable for them to get products out to like this part of Maine and like west of us? Where I tell people all the time that I work with, when they ask me where I live, and I tell them Hollis, and some of them know where it is, some of them don't. And I say, well, I'm about 30 to 40 minutes from everything in southern Maine, which is, and that's not just towards the coast. That's a little further west of here too, So, this is kind of a good gateway area and might help serve some of the more rural parts of York County. And maybe we can attract businesses that'll support certain industries that serve other businesses in this area. But I'd love to hear from, one of my ideas for this business development is not to just throw darts and see what sticks. It's let's talk to business owners in the area. Let's bring them in for a bit of a roundtable. You have a town hall with local business owners and residents and say, what type of businesses do you not want to see, and what type of businesses would serve you?
Well, I'll tell you one business that a lot of people don't want to see is AI data centers. Could you touch on that?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of talk about that right now, and I do know that there are some environmental impacts and concerns, especially on the water side of things, and I know people already have concerns about that with Poland Spring. So, I'm the type of person that wants to look at every aspect of a decision before I make a decision. So again, I'm not going to pretend like I know everything there is to know about data centers and the impact on a town like Hollis. I think for me to say 100% I love them or 100% I hate them would be tough for me to sit here and say. Right now, I think I lean more toward probably not right for Hollis. Like I said, I would like to bring businesses in that serve us beyond just potential jobs, right? Which to me, a data center really, that's maybe all it would offer, right? Is job opportunities, right? That's not going to specifically serve needs within the community or support other areas of business in the community. So I lean more on the no, but I also would love, I know that environmental impacts are the biggest halt that people have for those. So I'd love to learn a little more about that, and then working on learning a little bit more about that.
I'm curious about, since you mentioned environmental impacts,
Yeah.
The folks around here may not have a broad global critique of the bottled water industry, but they are concerned about the truck traffic, and I'm just curious how you would deal with the folks at Poland Spring as far as this issue, because it doesn't seem to be an issue that can be solved.
Yeah. That I think is a deeper issue than just us here in Hollis dealing with Poland Spring. I think most of those companies don't. Obviously those drivers are subcontracted, so it's not like Poland Spring employees incorrectly operating.
Oh yeah, if you're
trucks.
from Tennessee and you're in Buxton Hollis,
Right.
and you get stuck on that bridge between the two towns,
Moderation Bridge,
as
yeah.
I've seen over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, I will say the truck route is pretty well outlined. I do think working with our neighbors in Buxton to maybe get some signage up that would say no 18-wheelers across this bridge, like truck route, keep following 112, should be discussed if it hasn't been already. I've heard murmurs that maybe that has been discussed, and maybe there's a reason that can't happen that I'm unaware of. But I think we maybe need to work with our neighbors in Buxton, in their town government, talk with DOT, and figure out how to hold some of these companies accountable that are either the companies are not training their drivers properly, or they're putting their drivers in a bad situation because they're not giving them all the information they need. Either way, I think we can only do so much about that, but it's something that whatever we can do, I think we should try to do to remedy that.
Do you see yourself after serving a term or two seeking higher office at any point?
I have not really thought about that, Patrick, to be
First
honest
things
with you.
first?
First things first, yeah. As of right now, I would, if you said I had to make a decision tomorrow whether I would go further than this, I would say no. I think this is good. And that's mostly because anything more than this would take a lot more time away from my family.
Yeah, what about the time commitment? How many children do you have, and are you working more than 40 hours a week, and can you meet the requirements of the select board in terms of time commitment, and what is that time commitment?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I got two kids. I got two little girls. My oldest just turned 7 on Saturday.
Nice.
And I've got my youngest will be 4 in September. From a time perspective, as a business owner, I do to a degree. Everyone's like, oh, you get to make your own schedule. Must be so nice. It's true and it's not true all at the same time. But I do have flexibility that when I have a commitment and say, hey, whether there's committees that I'm on that meet at a certain times of the month, the select board meeting being, 2 days out of the month, I can absolutely make the time to not only be at those meetings, but give myself time to prepare for them as well. That's just something I can get in my schedule and say, hey, this is a non-negotiable. I would not raise my hand and say I'm ready to serve the community if I wasn't going to make the appropriate time.
As far as relationships with the MSAD 6 school board,
Yep.
you're obviously interested in the issues because you have children, I presume, that are going into the school district.
Yep.
And everyone out there is interested in the school board because that's where 60 or 70% of their tax dollars go. I don't have the exact percentage. But what are your thoughts about the local school system and how it might run better?
Sure. Well, I think it's important to understand that as the select board, we don't have any say over their budget or their decision making. We're voting on those issues that are coming up here on June 9th, just like every other resident is as a resident, right? We can obviously give them opportunities to speak or explain themselves, however you want to phrase that, by inviting them to the school board meeting to get information out there and give the public opportunity to comment on it. But the public can also do that at their select board meetings as well. They're open to the public and open to public comment, just like the select board meetings are.
Yeah, you're a taxpayer. We're all taxpayers. Nobody likes taxes.
Absolutely.
What can we do to try to keep them low?
Yeah. My biggest answer to that is, as a member of the select board, that makes it that much more important that I am fiscally responsible for our taxpayers when it comes to Hollis, right? And that doesn't mean cut to make up for increases over here that I have no control over. It's let's be very responsible with how we run our town's budget, so that we are that the increases are either meant to be investments for the future, like, hey, we got to spend some money now, but we know it's going to come back to us in some way in the future, or that they are just simple cost of living, increases that we're obligated to make. And again, really focus on our controllable costs. Be financially responsible with what we can control, and that's the best way to offset that.
I did hear a rumor, and of course, if you're running the community TV station, you hear the gossip. Is there a move out there to abolish the 5-member select board and get rid of the town manager? Is there some talk about that?
I believe there is. Yeah, I believe there is. I think there are members of the current select board and members of the community that think that this was a waste of money. They don't see the need for it. Again, this form of government was overwhelmingly supported by a significant majority of the voters from two elections ago. But yes, there is a faction that want it gone. I think it's way too soon to know if it's working or not. I don't think the town manager has been given the resources that he needs to run the department or run the town, I should say, at his full capacity. Optimally, yeah, is a great word for it. And I think he does need a few more resources, and I don't not just mean financial resources. I mean operational resources in order to know what that optimal looks like.
Is the town hall understaffed in your view?
Understaffed? I know that they are quite busy, but I do think some of those operational issues do come from, and there's been a committee already formed to address this, the fact that we do have some elected positions that by the letter of the law, there are certain things that they are able to do that the town manager doesn't necessarily have say over. Mm-hmm. So I think what could appear to be staffing issues comes down to, number one, there probably are a few things that the town manager, this is part of the growing pains thing, right? There are probably some things the town manager could do to help some of those operational things. I think some of those things have improved and are in place, but in order for the town manager to actually manage the folks in that building, he has to have the ability to do so. Mm-hmm. And right now he only has so much accountability, mm-hmm. because the accountability to our road commissioner, our treasurer, our town clerk,
code enforcement.
That might be hired already, but it might be elected. I'm actually not sure on that. I have to educate myself on that. But at any rate, 4 or so of those positions are elected. And the qualifications for that are a resident of the town, at least 18 years of age. And you can get the signatures and get on the ballot, right? So
that has caused some consternation in other towns.
Yeah.
Arguably, some people who end up in those positions are less than qualified.
yeah, and I wouldn't say that's specifically the case.
No, I
here,
wasn't implying
but
that, but in some other towns that I'm familiar with, maybe.
100%. So, and I think, the committee I was alluding to before, a committee that's been formed, there's a committee writing an ordinance to take those elected positions and bring them to appointed so that we can develop a hierarchy of organization and leadership in the town hall and make sure people that are coming in are hired by the town manager, reviewed by the select board, so we still have those checks and balances by elected officials. And I've talked to many people on that committee, and they unanimously agreed to write that ordinance, which I think is great, because again, there was a lot of talk on candidates night about serving the voters, right, and doing what the voters want, and the voters wanted this form of government. So let's give the voters what they want, and give what they wanted the resources it needs. Give this form of government the resources it needs.
So the town can thrive and flourish.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that we can effectively determine if this form of government is working for us and if it's going to work for us moving forward.
Yeah. Moving forward, what are your hopes and dreams for the town of Hollis as far as your family and your community goes?
Absolutely. Well, I'm already proud of it. Like I said, I think the community does a great job serving, especially as a family man in town. I think it does a great job serving families, serving kids. There's a lot going on here. I think there are some activities out there for the whole community to enjoy, not just families. I think that could be better, though. That's something I want to work on improving to build some community. But my hope is that we set ourselves up very well for the future financially, that we continue to be fiscally responsible. I think we're in great shape. I mean, we have a town hall that's 44% larger than the building we had before, and our controllable operational expenses only went up about 5.25% on this budget that we're going to vote on June 9th. That's incredible. To have a building that much larger, and there's some of those costs, I say controllable, some of those costs aren't controllable, like the cost of heating and electricity and things like that we have no control over. Yeah. So that means our controllable costs were even better than that. So I think we're in a good spot there. So let's continue to invest in setting the town up for a prosperous future. I think smart, controlled residential growth within the state regulations. I know the state is having some say in that right now, which makes it that much more important to me to take advantage of areas of our town that are already zoned and earmarked for business development. I don't think we need to be sticking businesses amongst a bunch of residential areas, but we have areas that aren't very residential at all that are earmarked for business growth, and we should invest in that because that is going to offset our tax base, and it is going to help us offset some of the school budget issues that people are feeling the pinch on, and will help us fund initiatives that will serve the town without having to put as much of that on the residential taxpayer. Yeah. And I think that's crucial for us to move forward and serve the town at the capacity that we should be serving it.
Well, I think you have the right energy for the job.
Thank you.
And I think you're genuine and you're sincere, and I wish you well. And I just want to say in passing that in 2007, when I started this job, if you had told me that the town of Hollis would have that amazing state-of-the-art facility they now have, I probably wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of people that were wedded to a stagnant status quo.
Yeah.
And, change is hard, but just like death and taxes, it happens.
It's inevitable.
Yeah. And how you manage it matters.
Yeah, and falling behind the 8 ball is way more costly than the growing pains of change.
Let's talk about the election. Is it June 9th?
June 9th, yep. Early voting is happening right now, so you can.
Yeah, I voted in Westbrook just last week.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go down to town hall, see Crystal. She'll get you your absentee ballot if that's easier than showing up on election day. But yeah, June 9th. I believe polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Aside from select board members, what else is being voted on?
Yeah, our whole budget, the whole budget that's earmarked for the next fiscal year is being voted on. There'll be school board candidates that, and again, I always like to remind people that we get to vote on the representatives from every town, not just the representative, although there are no Hollis reps that I know of. I think the Hollis seats are not up this year, but we are still voting on the towns in the district who do have seats that are available. Obviously, this is a primary as well, so the gubernatorial candidates for the Democrat and Republican primary for governor. And then I don't believe there are any primaries for the legislative seats. I think there's only one Democrat and one Republican running for our legislative districts, both in the House and the Senate. I will throw out there, this is a good PSA because I just learned about this a couple of weeks ago. Part of Hollis is in a different legislative district for the state House of Representatives now.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, so the easiest way you can figure that out is if you go to the main Clean Election Fund website, you can search any candidates in your area that might be trying to run a clean election through that state program, and you can see which district you're in. Mm-hmm. I believe it's either 137 or 138. Don't quote me on that. Mm-hmm. But there's a little piece of Hollis that is now in 138. So,
Phil, if the voters want to reach out to you, how would they do so?
Absolutely. I did set up a website that has some information on, who I am, what I stand for, what I'm hoping to accomplish with the town. Finemoreforhollis.com. FINEMORE Hollis. Finemoreforhollis.com. And I also set up an email. That's finemoreforhollis@gmail.com.
Oh, maybe you could bring some web design skills to the job.
Yeah. Well,
is it Wix?
Yeah, Wix. Yeah, it was very plug and play. Very plug and play.
Thank you very much for coming in today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.